meeting of May 12th at 4:30 here at Ledgewood Heights Community Room. And I would like to propose a motion to start our open public hearing to review the HUD required Housing Opportunity through Modernization Act changes to Section 8 program for July 1st, 2025. May I have a motion to open?
I move that we open.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public hearing is now open. So do we have any public participation at this time?
Like it?
Okay. Would you like to, you have the floor, Christine.
Okay. So these are changes that have been mandated by HUD through the Housing Opportunities through Modernization Act. These changes are all not substantive. They are meant for clarification and they don't result in any changes to our policies. But as you'll see, there's a lot of like word changes, new definitions of like a foster adult. There are different changes in terms of just clarification around interim and interim certifications. And so, you know, there's a wide list of these, but these are all mandated changes that I can't think that would impact the residents in any way negatively or really positively. They're really just clarification, unless there's, Jeanette worked a lot on this. Did you want to mention anything, Jeanette, that you think would be important to make a notation of?
No, there are some things, like there's a hardship policy for under the eligible child care expenses, which is on page 4, which would have a positive impact on some residents. So there are some positive changes here, but there's nothing that dramatically changes the programs.
Okay.
There will be later on, but HUD has not come to any decision about when they're going to require the other changes to be implemented.
Okay.
So these have to be implemented by July 1st.
Okay. Any questions?
And they've been available on the website since March 28th, and we have gotten no comments.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right, so there's no questions or comments. So may I have a proposed motion to adopt the HUD required Housing Opportunity through Modernization Act changes to the Section 8 program to start July 1st, 2025?
It's not
No.
Section 8.
Oh,
It's all of the programs.
okay, because this says Section 8.
I think that's how I warned it when I
Okay.
added it to the agenda. So
It's Section 8, but big Section 8, not
Okay.
housing choice voucher like we think of Section 8.
Okay,
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
the whole.
It's
It's all of the
whole-
programs. So every program we have has a voucher tied to it.
okay,
Yep.
got it. May I have a motion?
I move we accept the Brattleboro Housing Partnership changes to the administrative plan effective date July 1st of 2025.
And I'll second that motion.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. Do we need to close the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
A motion that we close the public hearing.
Great. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, moving right along. We are now to review the minutes from March 24th, 2025 regular meeting. Seems so long ago, but any questions or comments? You okay? Oh. Sorry, any questions or comments about the minutes? Any edits need to be made? No?
No.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes for March 24th?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the minutes from May 1st?
It's the special meeting.
The 2025 special meeting. Any comments or questions about that?
No.
Motion?
Motion.
Second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Staff reports. Okay, so we have two, one for April 10th and one for today. So any questions about the April one? Any comments you'd like to say on that?
Are we going back to this one?
The April one.
Oh, no, skipping over here.
Yeah, you'll have to kind of look at both, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we have the executive director report, which was from April 10th. So I will talk about them. So, from the April 10th meeting, we had seen an increase in, incidents at the Samuel Elliott Apartments of people coming into the property and who are not residents and vandalizing the property. We had an incident where somebody defecated in one of the community spaces. And so, right afterwards, very quickly thereafter, we contacted the police. We were able to pull video footage, and we were able to trespass several people from the common areas of the building. We also identified a specific place where we found that a lot of people were going in and out, and a specific resident that was letting people in and out. And we did coordinate with the BRAT team to see if we could do some outreach to that particular apartment. And they did do specific outreach directly to them. It seems that since that has happened, that we have seen less people coming from outside. We also increased Hunter North being on the property.
Okay.
And we've talked to the BRAT team about walking through the building, and they started to walk through the building more frequently thereafter. And my understanding is that the situation has improved. I would ask Pat as a resident.
So, of course, I want to just go to bed early, but I have, in fact, I did ride up the elevator with 100 North, and I have bumped into the BRAT team walking through, and personally, I don't see a lot of problems because I get up early, go to bed early. I haven't heard many people complain about the people coming
I
in.
have someone in my family who lives there, and I've been hearing just one comment of like people avoiding the community room, and so I'm curious if that's changed, because that was as of yesterday, and it was her understanding there were people still avoiding
We
community
have,
room due to this problem, so.
we have one
I'm
resident
wondering.
that's really on top of it. I mean, she's on, that particular person is on top of it, and a lot of times she will, you get the communications from this person through her, sends pictures and writes everything up, so, and a lot of times she'll corner me and say, I saw this and I saw that.
Yeah.
But I don't, like I say, I get up early and go to bed early.
So I think, I mean, and my understanding is at this point that it's not people from the outside coming in and anymore. I think the problem has changed.
Okay.
I think there's a different problem, which is now we have a resident who lives in the building, a new resident, who is causing a lot of disruption in the community room, and so that's a separate issue from this.
Okay.
And that's being addressed as well. It's a little more challenging because it's an actual resident.
Yes.
Yeah, and so a couple of modifications that we're in the process of making is creating another community room space in one of the other smaller community rooms on a different floor to put a TV in that room. We're also taking like the remote control away from the community room space, and the bigger one and trying to address it specifically with this particular.
Group on his floor, so that individual could.
Yeah, so I think that we are looking at a different, setting up a different community space for people who just wanna quietly watch TV, and then, you know, we're trying to come up with some accommodations around that. But there has been an increase in, disruptive behavior since one particular resident has moved in, unfortunately, so.
So you're creating a safe community space, not just for one particular group, but for everyone, you know, on each floor there's a different space.
Each floor
room?
has a small
Okay.
community room.
I never really did a site
Yeah, it's not as big
survey.
as the big
Okay.
community room, but at this point, it doesn't feel like we can get the person to leave without like a very strong confrontation, and so we're working on that on one level, but we're also trying to come up with an accommodation in the meantime for other people.
Right.
I've never had any trouble with it, except a couple of weeks ago I walked through and I'd say good morning and he wouldn't say it. I have personally had no problem with him, but I just don't go down there. But I did go through the community room and said good morning, so I see a change.
Yeah.
Yes. It's sad.
Yeah. So one thing has ended and the other is sort of taking
That
its
first part
part.
is not a problem. That seems pretty quick.
Right.
Yeah, that was a really good, I mean, I think that collaboration with the Brat team was really helpful. I think collaborating with staff and like getting video footage, that was really helpful. We've also invited the police department they came to the San Emilio department on at the beginning of April, and they met with residents. We also, EMT was also there, the fire department, and they met with residents to answer questions, and since then, they've also done that work here. They've done a meeting here last week.
That Brat team's great.
So we're continuing to keep offering those at the property sites. I think they seem to be helpful. People can ask questions. We learn a lot of information from people at those as well. Other than that, we also finished the laundry room. That was finished in the end of March. It's lovely.
I like that, it's
If you wanna take a
beautiful.
look, we can go see it today.
Look at
But I shared a
this.
picture in there. It looks really nice.
Wow,
Um,
state of the art.
Yeah.
I love it. This is, I mean, wow,
Yeah.
$1.50, that is cheap.
It is very cheap.
That is
It is
very
very
reasonable.
it's the best deal in town.
Yes.
That's what I hear from people.
$6 a week to wash and dry.
I mean, others I've ventured to are more like $5, but if you do it, I mean, any other places might be $2.50, like where I'm at, it's $2 a wash, $2.50 to dry. And I'm in a privatized house, so it's just the point that you're not gonna see,
Right.
and I just love the machine, wow, these things are
I
like state of the art.
I fall into the
Oh
phone.
my gosh.
It's so deep.
These things.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'll just, and then this, we'll talk a little bit later, but I just brought up that, the tax credits are expiring for the A.W. Richards building, so we can talk about that further into the packet under, special projects. And, just to give you an update, we had, Tracy Odell is our new Housing Choice Voucher manager, and she started in early April, and we have hired a part-time accounting assistant who has also started, and she started, it's hard to remember, at this point, maybe a week and a half ago. And so she is just being trained right now, but she's only 20 hours a week as of right now.
Excellent, thank you. Are we ready to move on to the, May Executive Director's Report? Sure. Okay.
So, for May, so I've been really focusing a little inward this last couple of weeks, and I'm continuing to do that. As we try to train, somebody, we're trying to get the accounting department, back on its feet, after we've had a vacancy, and so we are just focusing really on getting that up and running. James Griffin is coming to Brattleboro tomorrow. He does an annual visit, so it's good timing, and he'll be here tomorrow so that we can, he can get all the final documents to close out the fiscal year 24-25, which ended at the end of March. And so, once he closes the books, then you all will be able to start our BHA audit, but then also you'll get the financials for the end of the year. And our tax credit audits have already been completed. You'll see those in your next board packet. Those came without any concerns, and then and that was pretty much it.
How many residents came out to the May 7th meeting for the
We
police
didn't have a
department?
lot. I
No?
think we had 4 residents from Ledgewood. 5.
Was it engaging? Like, was it?
It was
they
very
kinda helpful?
engaging, yeah.
Okay.
They had a lot of great ideas. They
Great.
talked a lot about the community here. And it was very interesting because they talked a lot about the strength of the community and how people at Ledgewood specifically really keep an eye on each other and others' communities, so they're more likely to identify a problem before it gets bigger. And so they talked a lot about that. I think the other piece is it's really hard, like if there is a problem, people don't always, this property in particular might not let us know as quickly, and so we talked a little bit about how we could get more information from residents and if people felt safe sharing that information. I think that they have done a lot to build community here. They've talked a lot about the parties they had. We talked a lot about that we have these specific grants to have more community engagement parties, and so I think they're using that as a tool to build their community, and then if something arises, then they'll be more likely to be able to address it. But it's a big housing site. There's a lot of people that live here, and so, it wasn't surprising that we didn't get a big turnout, but it was, I think, if we were, I would really like to do more information sessions like that so that we could get more information from people and give out more information.
At the different housing sites too.
Well, yeah, but I think specifically
this
at
one.
Ledgewood, yeah, I think here is specifically, I think it's a hard place to get, and I think it's a hard people get engaged at the parties, which they do themselves, which is great, and that's what we want, but it's a hard site to get people necessarily engaged, I would say, with like BHP as a whole. I think they're very engaged with the SASH for All program, and Jeff is here from the SASH for All
Thank you,
program.
Jeff.
And so I don't know if you want to speak to that,
Yeah,
like just resident engagement or like what you see as engagement on the property.
Well, I think one of the pros is that getting to know a lot of the adults, and then the kids are here, then they say, see my kid. So I get to work with the whole family that way, and it's neat. And the nurse, the same thing, and the SASH coordinator, Jake Persky. So Jake and I are out here a lot with the kids, and it's really fun. We can see how they play because it's kind of more in their atmosphere, in their community, and then we kind of just blend in, and then things are kind of natural. And a lot of really productive behaviors happen that you wouldn't know unless you saw it. The kids work together pretty well. There's some teasing, like there always is with kids, etc. But it's pretty productive. And then they'll come up and like I'll hear something, a parent will call me and say, so-and-so, my kid wants to talk with you. And that's unusual. So it is good engagement. They're really engaged with Jake too.
That's great.
So we've seen from a complaint, from police report, we've seen a lower instances of issues at this particular property site. And if there is an issue, it seems like it's one household that is the main issue, and everybody's sort of aware of what that is. I think it might be hard to, having the SASH for All program and having Jake be here and the whole SASH for All team, they have a finger to the pulse, so they bring that information back. I think it's hard I think it's gonna take a long time to get that feeling of, at least that's my impression, of people really wanting to reach out to the property management to get other people in trouble. I think there is almost like a an apprehension to doing that. So,
And I think that's a little bit of a subculture too, with the population here, you know, thou shalt not report on the neighbor, even though maybe they want to. Kind of that, don't be a rat. And so we just try to support people when things are really inappropriate. We help guide them hopefully in the right direction.
I guess my question with, you know, community engagement, you're building a community too, to earn that trust, to come to you, or to Christina, whoever. And I think once that bond comes into play, they'll probably open up a lot more to you about certain issues or whatever, which is good, which they do. So I think that's definitely a plus. And I see that with you engaging with the, not just the young, but with the people that live here, with the parents and seniors. You have more seniors here or no?
Yeah.
I mean, we have some seniors, a few, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's primarily,
Mixed
we
family.
do have some family, yes, it's primarily
Okay, and
families
which is great.
with children.
Yeah, and I like that. And then, like I said, in time it kind of
Right.
comes to you. They'll open up more.
Oh, and they, I mean, I come on board, they pick on me. My nickname is Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, dear.
They think that is so funny, and they have no idea what they're saying. And I go, you all, if you only knew. I think a 10-year-old gave me that nickname, and it is, and they think they think it's funny. And I just roll with it.
Yeah, I think they're not really grasping.
No, because of course my first name's Jeff, so let's get that. That's where it's coming from, right?
But you know, this is like, most of us grew up in a neighborhood. And this is a
This is a
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
Because you go, and you have the children, and it's a neighborhood. And
It is.
you're going to have problems in a neighborhood with somebody's. It's on a
I grew
normal-
up here in Lynchburg. Like I can speak to that. I grew up right here, and I mean you'll have issues no matter where you live.
Yeah,
Oh, you can
But,
live anywhere in town.
but there is like moving out of here, you miss that sense of community. It's
You do.
really tight knit.
And I see that. I want to
yeah,
validate that. I see that.
It really is, and I've always been really grateful for that.
That type of family together.
Yeah.
It's a family.
Look
It's a
out for one
neighborhood.
another. It's a
And you
really
miss it.
nice tight knit
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think that you can see that, it's very evident, and I think, you know, my understanding, and we talked a lot about this, is a lot of, the reason this neighborhood is thriving and doing so well is because of the residents looking out for each other.
Yes.
And they were even talking about proactively, you know, they were like, it's summer's coming, and we have a lot more teenagers on the property, and we wanna make sure, like, they were problem solving in that group of like, how do we protect this group of young adults as they're aging here, and it was really interesting. So I think that a lot of that was a really positive thing that came out of the police engagement. And Officer Washburn was there, who a lot of them know, and they really like him, and so it was really helpful for him to share information with them in a way that you could tell they felt really heard and seen, and so it was positive.
Yeah, Jeff, how long have you been? I feel like it's been a long time, but. has it been-
Years.
Oh, is it 2 years?
I've been, no, about right at a year.
It's
that
2
I've
years.
actually been on ground.
Oh,
And
okay.
I remember being, you know, very excited that we were gonna have you come,
Very.
and can you say something about, just while you're on the hot seat, like, the mental health, needs and.
I said definitely.
And
I can say
meeting
in
needs or-
general.
Yeah, in general, of course.
In general, that, you know, I think that is a lot of what's happening that really I feel very fortunate, and I don't take this for granted. When a parent comes up to me and says, "Can you meet with my kid?"
Yeah,
That says a lot to me.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's trust.
yeah.
And I've worked with a couple of kids that have some pretty severe issues that they're rejected in our culture.
Mhm.
And so we try to work on how can you maneuver through that? What can you do to find your peers? And if you need more help, what can you do? Where can you go? So some of the stuff is not superficial. It's
Yeah.
not just, I want to, Bobby hit me or Joey, you know. and et cetera, and I'm mad, there's some pretty important issues that are happening. But then same with the parents, and then I get to work with and see them work together too. We can do, sessions where I meet with, the family or one of the parents and one of the kids or all the kids, whatever is right, and that's a nice flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jake does that too,
Yeah.
do some of that, That's pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, intervene when the problems are small.
But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I could go on, but I think that's good for now.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
All right, are we ready to move on? Oh,
Sure.
sorry, did we finish the
Yes,
day?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Occupancy director's report, for, April and May.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So any questions or comments about the March, property management update?
So I'll just give you a little update about the vacancies. So we have filled many of the vacancies, so I think we're down to 2 vacancies now at Red Clover Commons. Since the March, and I think that we're filled all, we're filling A.W. Richards, we have, we're close to filling, I think we'll have 1 left over. So we're leasing up 1 in June. Actually, I think we're leasing up more than 1 at this point in June. So
Great.
we're getting closer, and I think, I wanna say that at Red Clover Commons, we're only gonna have 2 vacancies as of after June 1st.
I've been seeing people moving in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a big lift, but that's great, and it's really not that we don't have people on wait list, we have lots of people who need the housing, it's just that we have very strict protocols of how we can process and how we can pull applications, and we have to go through a very long process to make sure that we do it in order, and so, but we're getting much closer, and we also are using the Vermont State Housing waiting list for Red Clover Commons, which was another little bit of a struggle. And then I think if you wanna look at the blue page, you'll see, I think you'll be happy to see that we have seen some increases in percentages of rents received. So I think one to really make a notation of is Moore Court was down below, I believe, 50% for a long time, maybe even below 40% for several months. And so we're up to 87%, which is really wonderful. Ledgewood is still struggling, but I think that's because we have some really big balances. Some of the rents here are a lot higher, they're bigger apartments, they're higher, so we do have some big balances, but even that one I think has increased slightly, which is great. And as you can see, the rest are all doing pretty well.
Do you still think the way, the process that you've changed, the process change of notifying the tenants more has been maybe contributing to
Yes, I do. And I also think it's helped us to keep people out of legal. We've seen our legal filings decreased for non-payment, which is a huge piece as well. So that has been excellent. I think our biggest concern right now is keeping on that trajectory. You know, a big piece of that is just the accounting department, so making sure that we have everything in line so that we can send those letters out on the 15th. So we've been working really hard on making sure that we have all that accurate information so that the property management can send that out this month as well.
Great. Any questions or comments?
Is it, like, does it affect operations or, when there's a low percentage collected, like, is there, I'm glad to see that it's going up, but,
Yeah, so we still receive the half payment, so we still receive the half payment,
Yeah.
so we're getting something, but some of these big balances might be people who have very low half payments, so they're paying like a higher portion of the rent. And so in the long run, yes, we need to secure that rent. I mean, it does affect the bottom line eventually, like we will, if we don't recoup that money,
Yeah.
we will end up in a deficit for that apartment, and then we will end up needing to write it off at some point. We'll hold it as a credit owed, but we will lose that, so yes, it is a concern.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to move towards legal pretty quickly when people don't pay their portion of the rent, unfortunately.
So quick question, when you says we have reached out to 275 applicants with a minimal response, meaning that no one responded back to the legal?
Which is,
Or it says
yeah.
A.W. Richards?
Yep, this is the
The 40
AW.
That's a lot of applicants.
It was a lot of applicants, yeah.
And no one returned, no, any?
We had a lot of, yes, people
Wow.
were already housed, so now we're getting
Oh.
closer to like people who might have applied within the last year.
Oh, okay.
The other thing about A.W. Richards to remember is that it has different requirements. So it's the one tax credit property where you need to be within certain income brackets. So you can't be, you know, you might qualify, but then you don't have a subsidy to pay your rent. So we did embed some Section 8 vouchers into those apartments. So since then, that has helped us
That's
to
true,
lease
that's
up.
right, I remember that. That's true, you mentioned that when we had our meeting.
Yeah. But as you can see, it's a lot of administrative burden.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Because we have to send it, and then we have to resend it, and we have to document it, and we have to, you know, we have to notation that we sent it, where we sent it to. If there's a follow-up address, we need to send it to that address, so it's a lot of administrative work. I think people don't realize how much administrative work there is specifically to the properties. People think that, oh, the property manager just, you know, they're not doing anything because they're not here sitting at this desk, but really they're having to certify all of these rents. They're needing to make sure that people's certifications are right. They have to make sure that the application process is going through. They have to lease people up. So there's a lot of other pieces than just sitting in an office and listening to people and have people come in. That's why we've created the complaint process, and we have other processes so that people can give us their concerns, but we don't necessarily have people just to sit at the properties. Yeah.
So that the machine functions better.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to, but I think
Yeah.
there are these other roles that
Yeah.
really are important.
And I think it's efficient, you know, because then it doesn't take time away of having to do that. Yeah, you have someone else on there dealing with that specific issue. But I guess my question is also, weren't there another section where they have people that transferred from one facility to another also, or downgraded or whatever, or had children and they were looking? Is there another information for that? If anyone's ever
I don't understand.
transferred from one building to
We
another?
have people that transfer apartments, yeah.
And some of them is what they call reasonable
Yeah.
accommodations. Somebody
Right.
might be on a
Yeah.
need because so they can't use the stairs, so they might have to go into a building with an elevator, but if there's a process for reasonable accommodations.
Yeah.
But they might, say they are on a second floor apartment, if they
Right.
can't get to the first floor, they'll transfer to a building like High Rise and a Red Clover have elevators.
Or if let's say somebody's living in a 4-bedroom and their kids move out, and then they would need to move into a 1-bedroom, then we have to transfer them because they're overhoused. So we did have a lot of transfers for a while, and we still do. I mean, that does tend to take up time too, because the transfers will be prioritized over taking in new residents. And so we have to turn those apartments over, we need to then fix up the new apartment, and we're not really gaining anybody. So we saw a lot of that right after. About a year ago, we had a lot of internal transfers specifically at this housing site, because we had some people needing a smaller apartment, and we had some people needing bigger apartments, and it takes a lot to turn over like a 4-bedroom apartment. It's not something that can be done very quickly. It takes like a couple of months potentially. So, especially if we put in new cabinets or we put in new different things. So,
Like
yeah.
different, and that's one thing you did mention, people for ADA, for, certain, like their wheelchair accessible. I don't know, figure out which building has more accessibility for people with, that all the buildings pretty much balanced out, like one side has like, a ramp for people or showers and stuff like in each unit. Are they all set up that
we have
way?
some handicap units in each property site, and I would say like the some of our buildings, like this Samuel Apartments, that has an elevator in it, and so that's helpful. Whereas Hayes Court doesn't have a lift in every building.
Oh.
You know, these don't have elevators in this building, so if somebody needed to get to the second floor, they would need to transfer to a different housing site.
And you help, that's great that you accommodate those people with, you know, special needs or whatever, which is good. Okay, I didn't know, I was just trying to see that report to see if they had something for people with ADA moving into one building or something like that.
Yeah, I think on one of the, and we're doing that quarterly now, we didn't do it this month, but there is a chart there is a marker for the number of transfers. I tend not to break it down by like reasonable accommodations, and, I mean, I think, unless you really wanted that information, I don't know if it would be useful, but.
It's a reason for, you, I wouldn't say you'd have to write it down, but there are reasons that you will relocate. Now, one thing that was very hard to get used to was we always had a property manager on site. Then it was hard not to have somebody, and the only time our property manager comes is if there's somebody renting an apartment.
Or the
And they'll go down
inspections.
And inspections,
Or
otherwise you
recertifications.
don't see them, but when I first moved in, I mean, you depended on that, probably half the time it was just somebody wanted to talk, but it was hard.
Yeah, so we
Hard to accept not
intentionally,
having somebody in that office.
yeah, so we tried to put the more social service
Right.
people in that office, because we found that the majority of the things that people wanted to talk about weren't actually property management related, they were more needing to connect to services,
Right.
or needing to, they were having a difficult time dealing with an interpersonal relationship, or different things of that nature, and that wasn't really appropriate for the property managers to be doing, and so we found that was more, seemed to be more helpful. But I do think at this point, recertifications, inspections, leasing up new units, if there's follow-up inspections, or if there's complaints on the property, then property managers are there. Those are the primary reasons that they go to the properties, and then if people have specific complaints, then they can directly reach out to the property manager, either by submitting something in writing or calling directly to them, instead of just sitting in the office. We found that the majority of people, when we had a property manager sitting in the office, it would primarily be complaints. And then people wouldn't put them in writing, and as you know, we can't do anything with complaints if they're not in writing. We just can't take an action on them, we can't follow up on them, so we need to have something in writing.
And a letter will go out saying, we have a complaint, blah, blah, blah. They don't say who it is, we've had a complaint, and they will get a letter. And if it has to be followed through, it will be, but a lot of times they get a letter.
Now, being there's no property manager on site versus a property, what's the turnaround once the complaint goes in now?
We get the complaints pretty quickly. I mean,
Okay.
if we get the complaints, then the turnaround that we follow up on the complaint is pretty fast in terms of like, you'll get a letter saying like, we got your complaint and we will, we'll be putting something in writing, to that person. And then we'll follow up on that. And then we file it and we keep it, and we have a book for every year, and we keep all of the complaints, and then we show what what the follow-up was. And in case if it goes to a legal action, then we have documentation that we actually got this, that it was the property manager just identifying that didn't like that person. And so, it started with something else.
Personality.
Right.
Yeah. So it either starts with a police report, something in writing from a resident, some sort of documentation. It's not that we just make that decision ourselves.
And they can appeal, I mean, there's the steps before it goes legal.
Yep.
So they have a chance to meet with somebody, they have a chance, it's not so, well, you're out. They have quite a few chances to appeal, and then it will go, as you say, to legal.
All right, so next is the resident services newsletters and calendars, the SASH Flash. Any questions for either April or May? I'm just gonna loop them all together.
A lot of these SASH, now our SASH coordinator, basically, each housing group, a lot of times will pick, like we have bingo, we have in ours. And they have, really, our SASH coordinators really more into the SASH program. So they've kind of broken away from being president, and we might have a movie night, but the tenants will, like our bingo is tenant run. The crafts, a lot of things are tenant run, because it was gotten so the SASH coordinator is mostly for your health. So if there's like the crock pot cooking, we might do, that's to do with health. But it got so that they had to be there for everything, so we each, handle their own bingo, if they have a crafts, anything they have, that's not up to them. The SASH might get it going, but they don't really, because they're just so busy that they couldn't show up for bingo and things like that. So the units now, a lot of the activities are up to the.
Yeah, and that's intentional, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it's
to
good.
build community, to, they start the programs to try to build the community and then get volunteers to continue the programs. And that's a big part of their role, is to be community organizers, but then to step back a little bit to allow residents to do it themselves. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. So financial review. We have the February 2025 monthly comparable. Any questions or comments about that?
So as I said, the fiscal year closed, we're closing the books on the fiscal year which ended March 31st. So this is the second to last financial report.
Is that the green one?
No, it's white.
Oh,
Like,
okay,
it's
I got
one that
so many
we-
colors of the
You
green.
may have a glass to read if you got a whole
I
glass.
got everything in different colors.
So, so far, as of this, as this comparable, and I haven't seen, we haven't seen the numbers, but we're estimating a projection that the budget looks pretty good considering. And so I think that we're gonna be in good shape to close the book. I don't think that we're gonna have any, even with the large snow costs, I think that we're in a pretty good position for going into next year. And I don't have any, at this point, I don't have any major concerns. I think we're looking at, our biggest worry right now is just all the grant funding. We have a lot of grants through the social service program, so just making sure that those programs are continued into the next year. We're working really hard on that. The HUD programs, we haven't gotten any.
Nice, you too.
We haven't gotten any response. There's paper towels right behind you.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry.
That's why you're there.
Sorry, it's not the softest. So that's that is a concern right now. We haven't heard anything that we haven't seen that our admin costs are going to be cut at this point. So we're just waiting to hear. But as of this fiscal year, I think that I haven't seen anything that really makes me worry that we're going to close the books with a huge deficit.
Great. Good. The employee benefits it's in parentheses, that large amount, 31. Could you speak on that, of
Sure.
what that entails?
Yep, so I think we knew, so because the benefits are, we decide on the benefits, so our fiscal year is not at the same time as,
Right.
it's at a different projection. So we should estimate going forward that we will probably go over budget by 10% at least in the coming years.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that we are in a deficit for accounting purposes. It just means that we're gonna go over budget in those areas, and that we should identify that that is where we're gonna go over
Okay.
every year. Unless, I think that in James, when we talked about it this last year, he really felt like we were in a position where we could absorb that difference. And I think that that's just something that we have to keep monitoring as we go forward. We did approve it again in the next budget to increase again, but I think depending on what we see for healthcare costs again, we'll probably see that as another, the board's gonna have to make another decision again come the fall, whether or not what we wanna do.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? How about for the check listings, the blue and green one?
Glad you color coordinated with the versus I wouldn't find green and stuff. Like, oh, the purple.
No, okay, so next is check signing assignments. Vice Chair Michelle Wright is for May, so we are going to need June and July.
I'll do July, yeah.
We'll do July.
Yes.
So
My car should be working.
Commissioner,
So you need June? I could do that.
great.
Did you?
I can
Probably
probably,
gone.
I can probably go into August.
Okay.
I definitely can't do June because
Oh, okay.
I have a
So-
Friday, so I can do August.
Pat is August, Susie is June, Gary is July. And then we're good for now.
Great, thank you very much.
So now it's the same
We're
method.
through this
yeah.
summer.
Right?
Yeah, someone will reach out to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friday mornings is normally when we try to do the.
That's why I took July, see?
And we usually take August board meeting off, but,
Oh.
so should we do September? Oh, no, we can
We
do
can do-
check assignment in July, yeah.
And you know the beauty about it too, Susie, if you can't, you always have coverage from Michelle.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so-
Michelle's
something
right down the
happens.
street, 5 o'clock.
It's true. I'm back up.
So if you wanna go to Hawaii or whatever,
Gee, all right.
yeah, do a little power sailing.
Yeah, right.
Can you handle that for me?
All right, right down to special projects, so,
Oh, that's right.
I really appreciated this Melrose redevelopment, synopsis with pictures and all. So, any questions or comments about either the yellow one or this great packet?
There's also one more, which is there's two yellow.
Yeah,
This
okay.
one.
So,
Yes.
oh, it's this one?
Yellow and yellow.
Oh, okay.
Becca Balin came out
Yeah.
to take a look at the site, and she was enthusiastic about that, and I guess a piece of the sort of the takeaway for me that's been the most exciting is thinking about what you said about, this Irene happened, and it's happening all over the state. And so what we unfortunately had to deal with, 10 years ago or so, is what other people are starting to deal with now. So we sort of got in early in doing mitigation work and then redevelopment, and that's, when you think about like Port Montpelier or Londonderry or whatever, they've all, could possibly look at this project and say, oh, we don't all have to like leave the city, we could, or our town, we can do something like what they did in West Brattleboro.
Setting a positive example.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of the flood areas and stuff, can, mirror how you're going about, which is great, to see that, there is hope for that, you can redo that, and I'm looking at it like, wow, this is great. Now, what's the projected time and date of it?
So right now, we're still in the process of applying for funding. We have a meeting with Vermont Housing Finance Agency at the end of June to review part of our application. And so we're really looking at 2027 as if all goes to plan and we are able to start construction to be able to house people in 2027.
That's gonna be awesome. This is what the place is gonna look like on the inside, right?
That's what it looks like right now in
Red
RCC.
Clover
That's Red Clover Commons.
Put the back couple pages in there.
That is Red Clover, that's a resident, was Red Clover Commons too.
Isn't that, oh,
It's a nice apartment.
how old do I have to be?
It looks like a magazine shoot, doesn't it?
It really
Yeah, it
is.
doesn't look real, it is real. It's a
Come
real
to
apartment.
Washington DC or something.
Yeah.
You know, looking at, it's like
Now,
a
phase three
retirement.
is
This
basically what is,
Let's see, right here by the water, and I think that's what, you know, we have in Brattleboro and Asian Pot, we're looking to transition, people are talking about that. And with the current homes in the market, people in the young generation could just take it on and pick it up from there. And that's what we don't have.
this is basically
Is
what,
that type of housing for, not saying gated community, but, you know, for seniors that can afford to get in, because we don't know what the future's gonna be down the road, but fingers crossed, positive. And I could see that right back into here, cause this is good structure.
that's the old one, the new
Yeah.
one's towards, this is what it's doing.
Brick and mortar.
Basically,
There's a lot of brick and mortar
It
there.
looks like it's more, instead of
Yes.
individual, it looks more like it's,
Oh, the village. I
And
like
when,
that.
you know, when people are touring, you know, when they're walking around the buildings and, you know, oh, this part will probably be something like this part will probably be something like that, everybody's just so positive
Yeah.
about how beautiful it is and how
Oh, the
beautiful it's going to be.
sereneness by
and
the
just-
water.
I had never
wonderful
walked through
place
there until I was
to
that
live.
day. I was signing checks,
Peaceful.
I took a walk through, absolutely. I never realized how far back it went, because my mother lived there a long time ago.
Wow, I mean, that does make a difference, and I could say Breast Beach, where I'm at in Canal, is a lot more serene.
It
I'm
is.
just saying,
And that
but it's
it might
happening.
be important for the commissioners to, like, the sort of the you know, the script or the message that people have been hearing about Melrose is, oh, isn't that the place that flooded and you're trying to build there, you know? And so to really understand the fact that all of that work back then really changed the way the land is and that the river is, and so now it is safe to build here. It's safer than it ever was, and the properties above the Tri-Park area, it's safer, and below, it's all safer because of that work.
I did flood over, remember,
that's good to
I
know.
had to sign checks when we had to go through Melrose Street, and but didn't go up above a certain level.
Well, it's supposed to.
It's supposed to do that.
It's supposed to do that. That's what
And
it's
so
supposed
it
to do.
didn't,
It
it
did
didn't go
exactly
up
what it's
over-
supposed to do.
Yeah, it did what, but it didn't go up above that area, so where everything is now is safe.
And I was down with Kathy Umfer, with the, you know, constantly, we're down there cleaning up the waterways, which is, I tell you, definitely get involved with that. It's just, wow, how peaceful it is, just to kick back and just listen to the rushing waters, and they're so therapeutic.
I'm just gonna move on a little bit. So we did put out an actually an RFQ for an attorney. We did not get a lot of feedback. We did have somebody come out to the property last week, a potential applicant for that. So hopefully we'll get somebody to submit a proposal for that. We also are, we are gonna have community meetings sometime at the end of June, so I'll let you know beforehand of when that's gonna happen. We are bringing in an outside person, Core Throwbridge, who used to run BCTV as the executive director. She is going to be facilitating the community meetings. And Jeanette is helping as well with us, some of the organizational pieces. But Core will be facilitating the meetings, and we will have Dan, myself, and hopefully Michelle and Chris Hart there as well to answer questions. But we wanted to bring in an outside facilitator to really just run the meeting itself.
Great.
Yep. So I'll keep you posted as to when that is scheduled. But right now we're looking at the last week of June.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Safety update?
Safety update is really just, we've been continuing to have those safety meetings and engaging. We've still continued to have a presence at the situation table, and that's really helped. Specifically, we've started to have residents who have come up onto the situation table, and so it's been helpful to have that presence
That's great.
as well. Yeah.
Now, can commissioners come to that meeting, or is this just a closed door?
No, that's not a public, it's not,
Okay.
yeah, it's a more of a, closed meeting, invitation only for,
Oh,
specifically
okay.
for discussing specific situations.
Yeah, what was that, Brattleboro, what was that one you mentioned?
One Brattleboro.
One Brattleboro,
Yeah.
one Brattleboro, yeah.
Yeah, that's a leadership meeting that's helping to organize, the local leaders around
Yes.
public safety.
Stepping up, reclaiming Brat, one block at a time.
Resident survey?
So the resident survey is still on hold for right now. We are going to do it, but I did, we just don't have the capacity right now. We had a couple of people out, and then we've just had some turnover, so it is still on the agenda to get it done, so I'm not taking it off until we can get it done, but I just wanted to keep it on there for you.
Okay. So, next is the A.W. Richards refinancing,
Yes, so we
Discussion.
have a resolution to accept a new, so we needed to refinance a loan. We had a loan for the A.W. Richards building, which was originated in 2010. And so it has come up for, we either needed to pay it or we needed to refinance it. So we chose to refinance it with, so we chose to refinance it through the, I'm trying to think of it. Sorry, give me 1 second. So it was an M&T loan, but now we're having it refinanced, and I can't think of the agency that we're refinancing it with. It's a Vermont state agency. I'm gonna have to get you that. Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry, it's not on here. I don't know why I thought it would be on this. So actually, it might be in our board.
A new one?
I think it was in something that I wrote.
oh, and your executive director.
Yeah, I think it is in there. Sorry. Pay off the M&T loan, and then we will have a loan with that organization.
Right.
The good news is our rates, our monthly rate will go down a little bit.
No,
So that's
what
excellent.
percentage would you be going, thinking, Mike?
I don't remember exactly what the percentage is. I can give it to you that when we meet at the special meeting. So we had to apply for this with Evernorth, our partner agency.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you more of the loan details when we meet again, but we'll need to have a special meeting sometime this month. I'm sorry, I apologize. We can do it over Zoom
that's fine.
to discuss the loan amount, and then the board will need to execute to accept the loan. The closing date is on June 1st, so it all happened.
Okay.
It happened pretty quickly. We needed to get all the closing documents, and the biggest thing is that we didn't want to default on our loan from M&T
Right.
Bank, and so we were able to get an extension, to apply for an extension, and then we were able to apply through the Vermont Community Loan Fund, which I believe traditionally always offers lower interest rates than a traditional bank. It's not the same as applying to like a commercial bank.
Because believe it or not, even with the credit, my interest rate just went down. So there is some movement. Now that's glass, that's a different story, so, yeah.
So I'll be able to share with you
Right.
some of the documents and the information, and I can tell you what our rate was, our monthly fee, and what it will be going forward.
Any other questions or comments? Anything to add, Jeanette?
She doesn't know that much
Oh,
about this.
okay. I'm sorry.
Just put her on the spot.
I know the state fund.
He's like, what?
Sorry.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Just saying. And,
So, if there isn't any more comments, anything on board business or BHOI?
I think the only thing for BHOI is the last time we met, we had we didn't have the full board there, but the last time we met, we had we reviewed the process of how people go about applying for funds and how they bring it to the BHOI board. And that was discussed and then approved. And then the BHOI board also, they are requesting a tour of the properties. They wanna know more about BHP itself. So
Right,
we're
right.
going to probably do that this month.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And there's no need to enter into an executive session
I don't
today?
think so. I think
Okay.
we're all set.
Great.
Oh, I had one more question. Had you talked to Sue Philly about the town survey that we're doing? Did she email you about a survey that we're doing with the town? What we want the town to, she said she was gonna email me, but I'll
I
give her.
haven't, she hasn't yet.
Alright,
Yeah,
that's
she's
perfect,
busy
'cause I was
person,
gonna
so-
go around, I said, give it to Christina, she'll get it out there to
Okay.
all the people,
Okay.
which is good. So this is a big survey for the town.
Okay. Has it already been put out?
I don't, she has the final draft yet, we have to vote, but I'll check with Sue, 'cause she's the.
But it
final-
hasn't been put out to the
No,
people
not yet.
Oh, okay.
She wants to do it individually, so instead of me going to each, to each area to do the survey, I could have SASH, I can get with them and just go over, like, sit with them and people can say what it is they want, or what do they see, their town, their city, their state, everything. in
Okay.
that.
All right.
It's really good, but I'll remind Sue, she might not have sent it out yet, so I'd rather her explain it, cause she's
Okay,
great.
sure. I'll, yeah, if I don't hear from her, I'll just,
Yeah.
I'll ask if there's anything else.
Yep.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn with some water.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
All right. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thanks.
Nice, busy month.
That's a wrap.
Hard work, yes, very busy month.
Do you